Measurement of the volume. If we are given any object and we want to find out the volume of that object, how we can measure? So first of all, you have to know about what is volume. So how you can define the volume? When you are going to measuring the volume, then it depends upon the object. Either the object is regular or irregular. So if the object is regular, just like the cubical box, you are given a cubical box and you need to find out the volume of that box, then how you can find out the volume? You just need to multiply the length with width and height. Then you get the volume of that regular object. So it's given here basically volume is equals to length times width and height. Just multiply the dimension of the cubical box together to find out the volume of that object. So the volume of the regular object can be calculated by measuring their dimensions. For example, the volume of the cubical box can be calculated by multiplying the length, width and height of the box. Volume of irregular shaped small object. Secondly, you need to find out the volume of the object which is not regular. It is any irregular object, such as suppose a small stone. Then how you can find out the volume of that object? For that purpose, we uses the measuring cylinder. Measuring cylinder are basically used to determine the volume of any liquid or irregular shaped object. So I suppose that you want to find out the volume of any irregular shape object just like the small stone. Then how you can find out the volume? You have to follow the following step. First of all, measuring a cylinder is filled with the water and find out the reading of the liquid filled in the measuring cylinder. Then you need to lower the stone into it and then the level of water inside the measuring cylinder will rise up. You need to find out that reading and then subtract it from the initial reading to get out the final volume of the stone. So I can simply say that volume is equals to final reading minus initial reading. In this way, you can find out the volume of irregular shaped small object. So the steps are given here. Measuring cylinders are used to determine the volume of liquid or any irregular shaped object, just like stone. Suppose you want to find out the volume of a small stone. First measure the reading of a liquid filled in the measuring cylinder. Now lower the stone into it and then the level of the liquid inside the measuring cylinder will rise up. Measure the final reading and subtract it from the initial reading to get the volume of the stone. There is an example question. A small cylinder contains some water. A small metal block is slowly lowered into the water and is then removed. Finally, a piece of plastic is attached to the metal block and is again slowly lowered into the water. Diagram shows the measuring cylinder at each stage of this process. We need to find out the volume of the piece of plastic. So here the figure is given. In the figure A, you can see that there is just a measuring cylinder filled with liquid. In the B figure, a small metal block is lowered into measuring cylinder and the level of the liquid rise up. In the figure C, the metal block and plastic, both of these together lowered into the liquid and then again the level of the water rise up. Here in the figure A, you can see that this volume is basically 55 cubic centimeter. In the figure B, The volume of the liquid and the metal block is 70 cubic centimeter. In the figure C, the volume is 80 cubic centimeter. Now you need to find out basically the volume of that plastic. How you can find out the volume of that plastic? First of all, the volume of the water from the figure A is 55 cubic centimeter. The volume of the water and the block, both of these volume are given in the figure B. These are 70 cubic centimeter. Then you can easily calculate the volume of the block. Just write here volume for water plus volume for block. It's given 70 cubic centimeter. The volume of the water is given, which is 55 cubic centimeter. So you can easily find out the volume of the block. It would be 70 cubic centimeter minus the volume of the water, which is 55. Then you get the volume of the block, which comes to be 15 cubic centimeter. From the figure C, the volume of the water, block and the piece of plastic, it's 80 cubic centimeter. Then again write together the volume of water plus volume of block plus volume of plastic piece. It's given 80 cubic centimeter. From here you can find out the volume of the piece of plastic because you know the volume for the water and the block. So the volume for the plastic piece, it would be equals to 80 minus 55, which is the volume of the water, minus 15, which is the volume of the block. Then you get the volume of the piece of plastic, which comes to be 10 cubic centimeter. So in this way you can find out the volume of any object which is unknown. Hence the volume of the piece of plastic comes to be 10 cubic centimeter. Exam tips. Make sure your final answer should has the same unit as that of asked in the question. It means that in this question, initially the unit is cubic centimeter. So your final answer should have the same unit because the finally you are also going to find out the volume, and the volume has to be the same unit, which is cubic centimeter. Same thing is given here. You need to make sure that your final answer should have the same unit as that of asked in the question. Volume of irregular shaped large object. When the object is very large and it's irregular, then how you can find out the volume of that object? The volume of irregular shaped large object cannot be found out with the help of measuring cylinder. For that you need to use the displacement can method. So how you can find out the volume? By using the displacement can. So here you can see this method is basically the displacement method. In this method, the can is filled with the water up to the spots level, which is here, and then the object is lowered into it. Here I suppose that you are going to find out the volume of the large irregular shaped object, which is the large stone. Then you need to lower the large stone into it. The water begins to display its volume. The object that you throw here, it is basically not taking up the space that was previously occupied by the water. Then you need to calculate the amount of water that display here by using the measuring cylinder which is placed here. In this case, you can easily find out the volume by using the displacement method. Same steps are given here. First, the can is filled with water up to the spots level, and then the object is slowly lowered into it. Water begins to display its volume. The object is now taking up the space that was previously occupied by the volume. Actually, when you lower the object into it, then the level of the water will rise up. So object take up the spaces that was previously occupied by the water. Calculate the amount of the water displaced by using the measuring cylinder. The volume of the water displaced equals to the volume of the object. So in this case, the volume that the water will display, it is basically the volume of the object that you are going to measure. Such method is basically called as displacement method. Here is the example question. A student has a measuring cylinder containing water and also has a balance. Which of these could she use to find out the volume of the small metal sphere? A student wants to find out the volume of the small metal sphere. So which instrument she can use? Either a measuring cylinder containing the water and also the balance. She has no other apparatus. Option A, either the measuring cylinder containing water or the balance. B, the measuring cylinder containing water only. C, the balance only. D, neither the measuring cylinder nor the balance. So basically, when you need to find out the volume, you can easily use the measuring cylinder that contains water. The balance is not used because it's basically used to take the measurement of masses or weight. Then the balance is incorrect. D is also incorrect because you have to use some instrument like the measuring cylinder or the balance. Option A is also incorrect because here they are also using the balance, which is basically used to measure the mass. So B is correct from here. The measuring cylinder containing water only.